Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people, welcome to another episode of the Season of Self-Love podcast. I'm your host, Nyomi Banks, and today we are diving deep into something I believe that every single one of us needs, and that's emotional resilience. Well, this month we are embracing gratitude and abundance, and what better way to step into abundance than by breaking free from the pain of our past? Well, today's episode is called Breaking Free and Living Fully, Embracing Emotional Resilience. And I have someone very powerful in the building. I have Brooke DeBoer. Brooke is a life coach, an inspirational speaker, and an author of Living the Free Life. Her journey from bullying and trauma to bold healing and freedom is nothing short of incredible. And today she is going to help us to unpack how we can build emotional resilience and truly own our stories. But before we get deep into this topic, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on this Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG group. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to axnaomi.com and tell them Nyomi teach you. All right, my beautiful people, well, welcome back. Well, welcome, Brooke. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great today, and I'm so grateful to be here to share.
Yes, I am truly excited about this conversation. And I'm going to share something with I saw this past weekend too, and I think that fits perfectly in this topic as well. But before we get into the topic, as our listeners know, and you're new to this, we do a nice guided meditation just to ground us before we get into the topic at hand. So at this time, if you all just get comfortable and close your eyes for a moment. All right, my beautiful people. You can just close your eyes. Now take a deep breath in. Inhale through your nose, feeling the fullness in your chest and your belly. Now I want you to exhale slowly, releasing any tension and judgment. Again, inhale. Now exhale. Now with each breath, I want you to seek deeper into your presence. Feel the gratitude for your body as it is strong, as it is resilient, as it is deserving of love and care. Welcome your body to this sacred space. Welcome your mind to this sacred space of self-love and healing. Take a few more deep breaths in. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes. All right, my beautiful people, again, thank you for just sharing that space with me. And if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, again, it's something we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to get us grounded before we get into the topic. Well, Brooke, welcome to the Season of Self-Love. I am truly happy to have you here. I am. For those who may not have know about your story, can you take us back to the beginning and what brought you on this path?
Sure. I found myself at 24, a single mom. I had had a series of sort of tumultuous relationships prior to that, and ended up with somebody who was definitely not right for me. It was not a smooth or peaceful relationship. And we tried to make it work, but there was some abuse going on, and I found myself pregnant and then expecting a daughter. And so I had to really take a look at the path my life was going down. Once I became pregnant with my daughter, it was like, okay, unfortunately, we endure things as humans that we probably wouldn't endure or choose for our children.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in some cases, kids have to go through this too, which is tough. But for me, I made a decision at that point that I needed to decide what kind of mom I wanted to be for my daughter and what kind of example I wanted to be. And so I separated from her biological father and, went on my own. And he didn't follow. He has not been part of her experience, which is unfortunate, I think, more for him than for her. And I began to rebuild my life. And the healing process has been many years long. I am 50 years old now and have 3 grown daughters. My youngest just graduated from high school. And the book was released just last July. And it was my story. And I had a really major health challenge when I was, I don't know exactly the age. I'm not even sure if that's in the book, but in my 30s, I had a health challenge and it was a thyroid crash. And I went to the doctor and I'm like, okay, nobody in my family has this. Like, what's going on? And spoke with the doctor and he ran some tests and it wasn't anything autoimmune. And we finally came to the conclusion that this was stress induced. And I realized in my conversations with him that I had stored up trauma for many, many years. And I had developed coping mechanisms, though I now am in a very happy marriage with the father of my other 2 daughters. And he's also the father of my first, because he's been the only father in her experience. And that's a story on its own. But long story short, there was a realization when the health challenge happened that I needed to process through the trauma that had happened to me in order to release it. And I hadn't really done that yet. I had developed survival mechanisms and coping mechanisms for just perfectionism and working and being the best. And I'd married a great man, so there was lots of opportunity to kind of explore what I wanted to do and be a good mom to the girls. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really taking care of my heart completely. And so that process began. And it was a great healing process. It was very difficult. Physically, I wasn't doing very well, so I had to build back my strength and everything. And in the process, I couldn't do a lot of other things, so I began to just do a lot of self-exploration. I worked with a counselor. I spent a lot of time. One of the doctor's orders was, you're not to do dishes, you're not to do laundry. Everybody else in your family can pick up the slack for a little while you heal. And I was supposed to get therapeutic massages every other week. And I actually have stuck to that since that time. It's probably been about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And I still do that unless we have something going on. But I go for the self-care things. I make it a priority in my experience. It's not just physical, but it's also emotional. I meet with a counselor once a month, even if something isn't going on. I talk to her about how I'm feeling about things, and we process through. So, I mean, that's the backstory. How I became a coach is a whole nother story. How the book came about is a different story, but I love to share all of this. And I'm basically dedicating myself. Currently, I'm taking a tiny break because I have a daughter getting married, the daughter who is with me since the beginning.
Yeah.
The daughter who is my inspiration for healing and everything. Her name is Paige, and she's getting married in 2.5 weeks on Maui. So we're taking a small break to support her in this process and this transition and her future husband. And then our youngest daughter, has just graduated from high school. So we're preparing to be empty nesters here in another month and a half. So it's a big emotional time for us. Yeah. But up until we took a little break to celebrate the graduation, get my daughter ready for being married and everything, I have been promoting the book and just trying to get out there and share with women about my experience, because there was bullying all the way through my school years. And then I got into an abusive relationship in high school, and then ended up in a very unhealthy one that I was speaking of before. Mm-hmm. So I just want to help women to know their worth, to do the work, to process through the emotions and trauma if they've already had it, and to create the life that they're hoping and dreaming for. And until you do that, I feel like you're kind of on a shaky foundation, you know? Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
it's a process.
Yeah, it is. First of all, thank you for sharing your story. It's a very powerful one. I can kind of mirror your life just a little bit. And I'm gonna share that later if we have time. But it's one thing that I know that I read in your profile that you say, and it's that freedom isn't about perfection. That freedom isn't about perfection, that it's about permission, is what you say. So what gave you the permission to start to rewrite your story?
Well, I think initially it's what I said. It was the idea of what kind of example am I going to be for my daughter? But that was still for somebody else. And I think when the health challenge happened, you know, I spoke with a friend from church. It was a mentor for me, somebody who prayed with me through hard times and difficult times. And she had just been a great mentor in my experience. And when I was going through the health challenge, she said, you know, God created you as a masterpiece. Are you treating yourself like a masterpiece? And that was a real pivotal moment for me. I don't even know if she knows how pivotal that was. But it just really impressed upon me the idea that I am God's child and God's masterpiece, and I was created just as He wanted me to be created. So if I'm changing myself or with somebody who's mistreating me so that I can't act and be the person that God created me to be, then it's time to kind of take a look and see if something needs to shift, you know. And it's not really helping anybody else if you're staying with an abuser either, because you're enabling that kind of behavior that's obviously not helping them either. But that's a whole nother thing, you know. That's just a side note, because the most important thing is we teach people how to treat us.
Exactly.
By what we accept. So if we're accepting mistreatment, abuse, belittling comments, behavior, pushing, shoving, whatever it is, you know, then we're teaching them. We're in charge, you know. And it's also the same doctor told my girls, because he was our family doctor. He said, you know, you guys set the tone in your relationships. And you know, while I honor men, and I believe I have a great man that I'm married to too, I do believe that it's very empowering to teach women that they get to set the tone, you know, for what the expectations are. And hopefully it's two people working together at the end of the day. But I think women need to hear that. We need a little extra push, you know? So, sorry, I thought my phone was silenced.
All right.
So yeah, I think, unfortunately, I don't know what it is, but I feel like society or just the world kind of tells us that we need to be nice and we need to, you know, behave in a certain way and be perfect. And social media doesn't help that with all the images that everybody's seeing all the time that are, you know, Probably most of them doctored anyway. We're not perfect. We're supposed to be just exactly who God created us to be. And that's what I believe. And that's what I hope to help women see.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I want to just go back a little bit. I heard you say about when you were a teenager, you were being bullied, going through trauma. You were even in an abusive relationship. So I guess my question is, at such a young age, being in an abusive relationship with someone probably the same age as you, can I ask you, was that something that you witnessed at home that you thought that it was more acceptable for, or was it something that you were searching for, that you felt that person was giving you through that abuse, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I didn't have abuse at home. I had I like to speak carefully about this because I have a very close connection to both of my parents and my dad. But my dad he worked, and it was a necessity for our family. I don't know the amount of hours that he worked, but I think he was a workaholic. And so he was gone a good portion of my childhood, or distracted, So I think some of it was attention. I'm not saying it's his fault,
No.
but I think some of it was attention and kind of having like a strong person in my experience. I'm not saying either he wasn't strong. He was a very good man, but that's the only explanation I can really come up with. The other thing is, I don't know. I think I just had a certain personality where I like to challenge. And I see that in one of my other daughters too. And I think it was just the wrong kind of challenge.
Yeah.
I think, I was I wanted to be good, and I wanted to perform and do well. And so maybe it is back to the attention thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know. But once it started, it was hard to stop or get out of. I allowed myself to be talked into things and have influences of other friends around me. And then once I got in, it was really hard to get out because I became attached to the familiarity of the relationship,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to be alone. It was really scary to think about being alone. So, and high school is a hard environment for young women. I mean, for everybody's trying to figure out who they are. And
Yeah.
for some reason, I had a particularly difficult high school experience in my peer group. It just felt there was bullying from girls. There was this abusive situation that happened with a boy. I had another girlfriend who I found out later was in an abusive relationship, and she actually passed away. She died by suicide because she couldn't get out. So I do think it's very common for kids to get into relationships in high school and be over their head with the problem, whatever's going on, not know how to sort them out. And then mine just became abusive, which was very difficult. So,
yeah. So let me tell you why when I went back there to that, this past weekend, I saw this moving video about this young lady. She was talking about her daughter, who was in high school as well, that was being bullied. And there was one question that she asked her mom. She said, "Why can't I make them be my friends? Why they don't like me?" And I am a mother of three. Yeah. My first baby, I had her at 19 years old. That was she good with everyone, no bullies. My second baby, we grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So we were the only Black family that was in a neighborhood, maybe 2 or 3 Black children that was in her school. And so she always saw herself as being different than everyone else. And for that, she saw that she felt like she had to be a certain way or look a certain way. And she had some bullying, but we kind of nipped that in a bud. But once we moved to Las Vegas from California, it kind of changed because we now have put her in another dynamic of another culture. Now she was in a culture where there was more Black people, there were more Latino people. She saw, more people that looked like her, but she didn't know how to interact with them. And she talks very proper. And usually when you see a Black girl dark-skinned, pretty Black girl speaking proper language to
Yeah.
say you're trying to be white. And so she had
Right.
to deal with that bullying in an aspect of, am I
Mhm.
not Black enough because of the way that
Right.
I speak? And I kind of saw her trying to change her dialect of how she was talking. And
Mhm.
what it did, it took me back to when I was a young child. I used to talk very proper because my mother made sure that I used the right words,
Mhm.
right things. And when I got around family members, they say, you
Right.
sound white, which in return, I wish that I had somebody to
Mhm.
tell me, like, no, you sound great. You're using the proper English that is supposed to be used. So go ahead and do it.
Right.
But I didn't do that. I
Mhm.
reverted and like dumbed my language down to fit in with
Mhm.
everyone else. So I had
I understand.
spoke to my daughter about that, about like, no, you speak very well. That's how I said, I wish I would have stayed speaking well, in that
Yeah.
language, but then with my little one, she has problems where I actually took her out of school. So we homeschool her now because
Mhm.
of the bullying and the influence that she's seen with her own eyes of people bullying her friends and people
Yeah.
threatening and things of that sort. Well, this young lady that I'm talking about on the video, she actually unalived herself. But in the process of her unaliving herself, she was trying to figure out, how can I fight this battle? How can I grow my resilience? How can I do this at
Mhm.
such a young age? And it's like us as parents, what do you say? And I've never been bullied or been on a bully side.
Mhm.
What will be the words that a parent can say to a child to help them to get over that mental, to help them with their resilience, if that makes sense? I hope I'm saying the right words.
Yeah, I mean, I can only really speak from my experience parenting my own daughters and myself. And I suppose, I've coached actually a couple of women who've been in bullying environments at work too. And the main thing is to just trust your inner voice, and to hear that inner voice. Sometimes we have to get a little bit quiet. And we also have to make sure you only need one friend, one supportive family member, one person who has your back and can help you just process and talk through some of these feelings. I think it's really important to understand everything that's coming from the outside
Yeah.
and make sure that you separate that from your inner voice. Because if you start taking on the outside voices as your own, you're
Mhm.
never going to be the authentic you that God created, that you are. And so I think it's just really important to take the time to make that distinction, get a supportive friend or partner to help you, or maybe it's your mom. You're a great mom, so your kids can come to you and talk these things through with you. I know it's a little hard as they become teenagers too. Sometimes it is helpful to have somebody else, but if I see that I'm not, as a mom, helping my daughters or connecting to them in a way that they need it, then I'm not afraid to call in help.
Right.
So we had family counselors working with all of our kids at various points, and just so that they could process their feelings and make sure that they could reconnect to their own inner voice. Because I think it's just like what you said. Like, it doesn't matter really what is the issue at hand from
Mhm.
a human standpoint. It's always voices from the outside telling you need to be a certain way. And then
Right.
when you start shifting away from your authentic self, or from what your family culture is, or what you're learning and being taught, hopefully it's good, and hopefully you have parents who aren't causing the problem, because we do have a lot of kids experiencing abuse at home. But in this case, um, I think it's just important to help your child reconnect to their own voice and to be strong and to practice using it. Sometimes we're not good at it at first.
Yeah.
It might just look like asking a bold question in a classroom, or saying no if you're under pressure, and then having somebody to back you up, role playing a little bit. Like, if you're getting bullied at school, what are some options of how you could handle the bully so that you don't end up, you know, in a bad situation or compromising your values, and then role playing some examples of what you could do or who can help you in that case if you need it at school. and connecting to a good person at the school or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a plan of action.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful. Thank you. And I didn't want to go down that road, but something just said go down that road, because I'm really thinking right now that I probably should just do a whole series on this bullying, like really. So I will be coming.
Great. Yeah. And I can prepare a little bit too. It's a big problem. The statistics are not good. And there's online bullying now that's rampant. And kids need to know how to handle it. And we're all getting information. We used to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have input from kids at school, right? And those kids were either positive or they were bullies or they were somewhere in between. Now we're connected to our smartphones. And so 24 hours a day, if we want it, we can receive information from the outside that's telling us how to be, what to look like, how to act, what to say, what's right politically, this way or that way.
Yeah.
It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so for kids, I don't know. I think many kids are struggling much more than we even know, quietly and privately, because it's all they know. Like, at least we knew the difference. I knew the difference between having a smartphone and not having one. So I could feel the difference and make that distinction, but I still have to control myself. I've been off of social media for over a month doing the family work that we're doing, and I feel like a different person. And I'm even just doing it to help people most of the time, So it's
I totally understand. It is. I totally understand. My husband and I, we always have this conversation, because our smallest one, she knows nothing but tech. She knows nothing but the computer, online, that's all. She's coding. She knows how to code. Like, she does all of those things. And like we joke a lot of times, like, we didn't even have cell phones back then. We had the phones that was on the wall that it didn't have no call waiting. It was that's call. So it's totally a different times,
Exactly.
Right. Who we compared ourselves is with the kids at school or the neighbors. We wasn't comparing ourselves with the world. So you're exactly right about, the hardships of just being who you are, and owning all of that. Owning all that. So I want to go back to the topic that we were talking about, because we can stay on this for a long time. I want to get back to this, because it's all about gratitude. But I want to talk about resilience. I want to talk about that. So for you, what exactly does that mean? Because a lot of people don't know what resilience means. But for you, if that's the foundation of it all, what's that?
Oh, for me, resilience is when you go through something hard, you take a moment, take a breath, and then you get back up again. It's putting one foot in front of the others and in front of the other, and then sometimes stopping and pausing too, and reflecting before you take further steps. For everybody's been through hard things. There's no perfect human out there. Some people are much more private about it, or don't share, or don't even acknowledge. But for me, it's been a process of just recognizing that everything has a season. There's a time to heal, and then there's a time to move forward. And sometimes we need to stop and just really, for me, I try to pray through things too. For me, that's, and that may not work for everybody, but for me, I take quiet time and I journal. My book is a lot about reflection and journaling. Beautiful. And I think we find resilience through reflection on what we've been through, and then recalibrating. You know what I mean? It's like a process for me. Resilience is not just a one and done thing, and okay, now I'm 100% resilient. Like, we have just things thrown at us in life, and we go through a process. And I found my process, and it is to stop and reflect, and then pray through something, and then take the next steps.
Beautiful. So, I love that, because I can echo that as well. That's something that we talk about a lot here on the Season of Self-Love is, first of all, acknowledging what is going on, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge it, and sit in silence. Right. That's one thing. We always stay moving and stay going. And sometimes we have to stay still and understand what that is and what we're going through. and I'm all with the prayer and meditation. That's definitely something that, we talk about here in the journaling. So I'm so happy that you've included that into your book, as well as
Yes.
reflecting. A lot of people, as you say, a lot of people don't want to reflect because sometimes it's too painful to reflect on
It
some of the
is.
things that we had in life, or even some of the decisions that we had to make at that time. But it's
Mhm.
like all about embracing all of this, because that is who created who we are. It was something that you said early on about you going through the pains and abuse and the trauma as a teenager, because that allowed you to be who you are today. And I love that I heard you say that, because a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people say, okay, I'm cured, I'm gone, and I'm moving forward. And you're like, no, I embrace all
Mhm.
of that, because that is who I am as Brooke. That is what created me, but also that gave me the tools that I can be able to teach my girls, and just a ripple effect,
Yeah.
just going forward. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I think I've been able to help some of their friends too, which has been a real blessing for me,
Hmm.
because I also think, I don't know if you have this, but it sounds like you have a really interesting story as well. But I also feel like when you've been through tough stuff like this, it gives you a better radar for it, and you're better at sort of navigating
Yes.
the new things that come if
Yeah.
you've done your work.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise, I think if you don't reflect and pause and journal and sort of heal, like what we've talked about, I mean, everybody has a different process for
Yeah.
that, but I think you end up just going through life like quite reactive, or at
Yeah.
least that's how I would have. If I wouldn't have, I would have just been reacting and continuing to push and work and do and try to be perfect. And that was
Mhm.
kind of my response to trauma.
Yeah.
I would, if anybody said anything not very nice to me, or, yeah, I mean, that was the big one. Like, if I felt like I got attacked in any way, like I'd feel like I needed to, like, what my counselor said, like, push somebody in a hole. And
Hmm.
he's like, Brooke, you actually don't have to push people in holes. They'll fall in on their own. And it's not that you wish for that on to somebody, but like you're expending all this energy, like trying to defend yourself and
Yes.
trying to teach other people how to act and behave.
Yeah.
And I think when we learn that the work is really within us, and
Yes.
all we really need to focus on is what we can control and how we take care of our own heart, and
Yeah.
then we'll be good for the people that are in our life who are good to us, our family, our friends, that type of thing. But if we're out there trying to correct every situation in the world and trying to be like a superstar, you're eventually going to wear out and burn out. And that's what happened to me. I mean, my body just said, no more, you're done. So that was that.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to heal, I had a choice. I guess I could have turned to drinking or drugs or something else and taken pills and then tried to be better. But for me, I wanted to heal fully.
Yeah.
So I
Beautiful.
began the work. It wasn't easy work. I'm never going to tell anybody that this work is easy,
No.
because like you said, when you're processing trauma, processing hard experiences, it's very painful, and there's a lot of shame attached to it too. I'll tell you, when I was about ready to release my book, I I was like, I almost went into panic mode.
Mm.
Like, I procrastinated as long as I possibly could.
Mm.
And finally, the publishing company I was working with just kind of pushed the little baby bird out of the nest and said, nope, we're launching now. And I was like, okay, guess I have no choice. So the book went out into the world. And then the response I got was so amazing. It was like so many people were coming and saying, I've been through something
Yeah.
similar, or thank you for putting this out there. But I think if you don't process and you don't get comfortable sharing your story, you'll never know that other people are going through similar things that you were going through
Exactly.
too. So there is a lot of value in doing that hard work. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, it does pay off.
Yeah.
So I hope people can hear that, women and men and
Yeah.
anybody who's gone through trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's one thing that I know that you teach, and I love this. It's about rewriting your story. I'm the same way, exactly like that. Can you walk us through how someone can begin that?
Yeah. So I work with clients. I was trained as a strategic intervention coach, which basically it's a fancy word for saying there are tools for identifying your feeling, identifying your trauma, identifying what it is that you want, sort of breaking that down, and then taking steps to move forward. So I trained with a couple, which was great. I had a husband and wife mentor influence through the Tony Robbins organization, Mark and Magali Pasha, and they taught a lot of really great tools for sort of taking a look at where you are now and then processing whatever emotions and then beginning to take steps forward towards where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And before you take the steps, you kind of establish your goals. What is my vision? What is it that I'm dreaming to do? That can be emotional goals. It can be physical goals. It can be monetary goals. And then we sort of work backwards from the goal to create action steps to get you closer to that goal. And the other thing that Tony Robbins teaches in a lot of, if you've done any of his stuff or if any of you listening, is to anticipate challenges along the way. So I think it's really helpful to, when you're on a journey of like crafting the life that you want, to know that you are going to have bumps in the road and to look ahead and anticipate them and then create alternatives. And it's sort of a flexible way of thinking about moving towards a goal, you know? So there's lots of things as a life coach that I can work with people when they're beginning this journey, but you can also do it yourself. You know, for me, I'm constantly planning and designing what direction I want to go and then recalibrating. Because sometimes my direction changes. We grow and we change, right? Our goals change. We accomplish something and we think we want to accomplish something else, but then at the end of the day, sometimes you lose your desire for that goal and you shift and you change. Right. So when I work with my clients, the other real specific thing that I do, and there's some of this in the book. So if people get the book, there are some of these tools that you can start with, like the Wheel of Life. This is a common one that, you know, it's like a circle and it has all the different parts of your life. So like your financial life, your romantic life, your family life. You can divide it however you want. You can give it new labels if you want. And then you assess. So you start with an assessment of where you feel you are from 0 to 10. And then you kind of go, okay, I'm going to take 1 to 2 areas and I'm going to break these down. What do I want more of? What do I want less of in this area? And then you begin working on establishing your goals for that area. And I recommend not taking on too many things at once. You don't want to just burn yourself out. And we're not supposed to be working on 10 things at once.
Right.
1 or 2 is great to focus on. So, but our life is not one-dimensional. You know, we have family and friends, we have intimate relationships, we have, you know, and then that's the other thing I like to work with my clients on friendships too, and your relationships. And there's lots of different metaphors and tools you can use for like, because a lot of us have a tendency, those of us that tend towards people pleasing, which I think are a lot of the people that end up in abusive situations because we are such good-hearted people that really care about pleasing people. And then you end up in something that's not good for you. But to assess your relationships too is really good because you kind of need supportive partners to get your goals accomplished. If you have people around you who are negatively affecting you, it's going to be really hard to accomplish those goals. So analyzing your friendships, looking at who you're bringing in close, who you're letting, like in your, like one of the metaphors is a house and your master bedroom is a, you know, who would you let in there?
Right.
This intimate private space versus who do you let into your living room versus who do you just keep outside your front door, you know, things like this, you know, so there's a lot of great work that can be done to help you get more going in the direction of your goals, but you kind of have to clear out all the negative people, the abuse, all of this, the trauma needs work before you can really move forward. Because if you move forward without that, you're going to end up probably much like me, like just working on goals, and then your emotional life is kind of a disaster.
Yeah, no.
So
I totally understand that. I think, was it last week? Well, week before last, I was, ready to go. I have so many goals, so many projects going. So just moving. And my body completely shut down right after I'm coming home from a vacation. So I've already vacationed. And
Right.
when I got home, my whole entire body shut down. But that wasn't the first time that my body did that. My body has done that before because I am that type of person that loves to be productive and love to create new things on healing process for everybody else, as well as myself. But still, my body, God, universe said, no, we got to sit you down right now because you're moving too fast. And in the movement of you moving too fast, you're missing things that's happening for you, but not only for you, but also for this platform that we've just blessed you with. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And you're not taking care of yourself. So I love that you kind of like shut it down for a full month so you can not only ground yourself, but also be connected with your baby as she is transforming into a whole new life on her own. So I truly applaud you on that.
Well, thank you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I want to acknowledge you for what you went through, because I think when we go on vacation, sometimes our body gets a chance to kind of unwind. And I think maybe what was happening is your nervous system was just like, okay, it's time for a break because it got a taste of it, And I think I don't know if this is just a woman thing or if it's a human thing. I would have to do more research, but I feel like we get so wound up and we don't even know like how we feel. And we're just like on the hamster wheel. And I feel like it's kind of an American thing. We've been traveling a lot out of the country for my husband's, one of his dreams, which is racing cars. And so this last year, we've also been doing a lot of travel, and I feel like they take more breaks than we do. While they're not quite as productive, I don't know, maybe I should be saying this on a podcast, but I mean, it feels like they're not as quickly productive. Maybe that's the word. It's not that they're not productive people over there. It's just they take a lot more breaks and a lot more. And I don't know, in a way, I wonder if they're healthier, because we really push hard here in America.
Yeah, we do. Even I watched several different documentaries, and even like going over there and spend some time with. They have breaks within the middle of the day, like everyone, the vacation. They're from Friday to Monday. Like they make sure that their health is the most important thing. And even with school, like a lot of them, they don't have homework. You do the work in school.
Exactly.
We don't do homework at homework. And so you can see how that kind of helps with even them society wise. Maybe they have low, with crime and all of that other things there is because they're more concerned on making sure they're taking care of your mental, your emotions, your physical there, to where we here in America, this is a whole something new. That's a whole nother different
we have podcasts for days.
That's a whole different thing. All right. Yeah. So this is what I want to talk about really, really fast. And I'm scrolling down right here because I want to go back to us talking about reflection, about, preparing, people for, just for that transformation. For me, as I shared with you last week, and at the time of this recording, I am preparing for a transformation. I'm getting my implants removed. And my implants removed. And so for me, that's a very, not only physical, but it's also a spiritual, emotional, type of transformation for me. So, when going through that is so many taking different levels of resilience. So I don't even know if I can even say that, but it's different levels of resilience when it comes with it. I just remember earlier today, doing the episode for this morning, and it was all talking about my why. And as I'm saying it again, this is the time of recording. And I remember in me speaking my why, I got so emotional in it because at that moment I was sharing my fears. I was sharing, my insecurities as a 30-year-old woman getting implants after my second child, but also I kind of understood what every stage in my life, it brought me to that moment today,
Right.
But even throughout that, it takes us through so many different levels, of it. But in that process, I'm literally finding a new me, a new me through all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's a courageous decision that you're making, and I think it's beautiful. And I would like to follow your journey too, to see how this, what changes you experience and how you feel afterwards. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's something that I committed to. I was at my altar and praying and, and meditating about it. And it was definitely, something to share the preparation
Hmm.
before and share, the healing after the explant, and I'm ready for it. That's something that my husband said, I'm gonna set up a camera. So whenever you feel the moment that you want to go sit there and share your emotions and share it, because it's not just a woman thing. And that's what a lot of people think. I'm just talking about the BII, the breast illness implant and the explant. No, we're talking about just period in life. We're talking
Yeah.
about certain things that we stay in beyond the season of what it is.
Yep.
I love that when you shared earlier in our conversation about knowing when it was time to move on from another relationship, when it's time, like,
Yeah.
knowing, okay, I have a little baby, I have a girl in my womb, and I would never want her to go through what I have to go to.
Exactly.
So I can say it all, but I now have to show her. It has to be my actions now more than anything. And so when we tend to stay in jobs longer than we supposed to, when we're not, betting on ourselves, you understand what I'm saying,
Mhm.
or
Oh,
being in
totally.
a relationship longer than, sometimes it's time to move on. That
That's right.
resilience that you built up in those relationships or at that job, that gave you the strength to level
Mhm.
up. It gave you the strength to move forward. And that's where that resilience come in so many different levels. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we do grow out of situations we're supposed to.
Yeah.
If we weren't growing and changing and evolving, then what are we doing here? So I think it's okay. It's good to sort of expect that. It's like what Tony Robbins says: anticipate. Maybe it's not anticipating a challenge, but anticipate the growth.
Mm,
Expect it,
I
and then
love
just be
that.
prepared to shift and change. As you go.
Yeah.
And I'm going through that right now, getting close to becoming an empty nester. My role in my kids' lives is going to change dramatically, and is same with my role with my husband. We love each other and we have a great time together, so that's good, but we're going to have to rediscover what this phase of life looks like.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, we go through many changes like that in life. So it's great work,
Yeah.
if we embrace it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you.
It's a privilege to
Yeah,
get to go through a life change.
it is.
Thank
It is.
you. Thank
Yeah,
you
and I
so
am.
much.
I am truly excited for you. To go. You're going through so many transformation. You're at the threshold of so many different things right now in your life. But the beautiful thing is that you do have someone there that is very supportive with you while you and both of you standing at that threshold going through it. It's just amazing. So I know our time has come up. So I just want you to do one little favor for me. If you can just share
Okay.
a few tools that that our listeners can use, and then also after that, tell us where they can find your book at and your social media platforms and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So one tool that popped into my mind, there's so many. So I was like, oh no, what am I going to share? But the one that popped into my mind is one that one of my very close personal friends and life coaches shared with me. And, when you've been through hard stuff, sometimes it's hard to listen to your own voice. And I talked
Mm,
about that earlier, when you're talking to
mhm.
your kids and separating the outside voices from the inside voice. But she taught me, if you're trying to make a decision about something and you're not sure which way to go, just stand up in a quiet space, ask the question. And if your body leans slightly forward, that's a yes.
Mm.
And if you feel like a resistance or tipping backwards just a little bit, that's a no. So it was such a simple tool
Yeah.
that I was like, how can this actually work? But I've used it lots of times and it has proven to be a very good tool that really helps me when I'm feeling a little bit of confusion or like I'm not quite sure about this or that. So that's one. Another tool is to journal, either the morning pages in the morning where you do like a brain dump, write 1 to 3 pages out in the morning, just your feelings and thoughts, no plan, no prompts, no nothing. Just do that first thing in the morning, because then you kind of get recentered again. You kind of understand where your feelings are at. If there's something hard going on, it'll come out usually. And then what else? I like your meditation. Meditation helps me if I sit quiet, and I use guided meditations because I'm not very good at sitting just totally in stillness, but you can do that if you're good at it, you know? So all three of those things are super helpful. And then to just remind yourself that you are God's masterpiece, you know? And if you don't believe in God, whatever your belief system is, you are a masterpiece. You were created by something somewhere just as you were supposed to be. And we're supposed to evolve and grow, but honor yourself, love yourself, love everything, even the quirks and the flaws. The quirks are, I think, almost the best part of humans.
It is.
Develop a sense of humor too. It's even better. So, and I think I'm getting better at that. So anyway, but and to find any of my books, or I have a children's book, and then I have this book for women called Living the Free Life, which has a lot of these tools in it. And I'm at thebrookedeboer.com, and I'm on Instagram. I have TikTok too, but I'm not as regular at updating that. So Instagram's better, and that's at Free Brooke. The word free and Brooke with an E.
Okay, thank you. You know, first of all, thank you for being here. Truly, thank you for just being such a powerful example of what it means to live in the free life. This has been a good one.
You too. I'm really excited to follow your journey too, and I'd love to hear more about your story. So maybe we can connect soon.
Yes, we will. When I come back from surgery, I'm taking like a nice month break off with like talking and speaking to anyone, kind of just being into my newness. And as I say, this, once I take my implants out, this will make myself complete. I'm complete. Yeah, I am complete. Yeah. Great.
Well, I'll be praying for you.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, my beautiful people. Again, I want to thank you all for just tuning in to this amazing. Don't forget to check out Brooke's her book, as well as follow her on Instagram and everything else there. Now, if you love this episode, do me a favor. I want you to share it with someone who needs to hear that their past doesn't define who they are. And again, remember, tag us on social media. What's your favorite moment, as well, and put hashtag self-love rebirth, because remember, this is the year of the rebirth for us here in 2025. And so until next time, you guys have an amazing, amazing day. Have a good one. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today, and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.